This time last year, Anthony Joshua, I wondered where he was at in his career. He fought Jermaine Franklin the start of April last year. And yeah, he won it clearly, but he gave away rounds. He looked very gun shy and he just didn't look himself. He really didn't. Goes then, fights Robert Helenius and wins that fight conclusively with a big knockout. But gets his eye swollen a little bit, gets his nose bloodied. And again, the knockout came later than it should have. It could have really come in the first round or two, but it went on. Then he swaps trainers, stays in contact with Derek James, but moves over to Ben Davison, bases himself back in the UK on a permanent basis, fights Otto Wallin, a man who gave Tyson Fury all sorts of problems. Ultimately, Fury ended up winning, but Joshua went in there. He'd fought Otto Wallin in the amateurs. He'd sparred him several times as a pro and always got the better of it by all accounts. And he went in there and he put a demolition job on Wallin. He did everything except get a clean knockout of Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin quit on a stool after 5 rounds. But Joshua didn't put a foot wrong, never even looked in remote danger of losing that fight, and it was a very good performance. Now, you listen to him in interviews after that, and you think, okay, this guy's mindset seems a lot better. He seems a lot more confident in himself. He seems to be a lot happier. There doesn't seem to be any semblance of doubt in his mind or, really starting to make itself shown to the surface, any doubt in his mind. He seems in a really good place mentally, and when a fighter is in a really good place mentally, they normally are in a good place physically. They normally bring it to the ring. They normally are able to, go into the ring straight away. They're on it like a car bonnet from round 1. He gets his fight then with Francis Ngannou. And bear in mind, he'd signed to fight Deontay Wilder. And as Anthony Joshua said, he kept up his end of the deal. Wilder couldn't. He couldn't beat Joseph Parker. So he gets his fight with Francis Ngannou, goes into the fight confident, as he should be. Joshua is the professional. He has the experience. He's a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. Ngannou, a great showing against Tyson Fury, but still quite an unknown quantity. Joshua needed to have the fight that Fury should have had, and he did. He stopped Francis Ngannou in 2 rounds. Probably the best knockout of his career. Joshua has plenty of knockouts, but that's the most devastating. That's a real highlight reel knockout. So Joshua, again, easiest payday of his career, easiest by far, and he moves on. Now, a lot of people are saying, and listen, I like what I'm seeing from Anthony Joshua. I really do. I like the mindset. I like what I'm seeing in the ring. He seems to have that killer instinct. He seems to let his hands go a lot more. He's looking for the knockout, and I really do think that, in a way, what he's done in his last couple of fights, he should have had it in reverse, right? And what I mean by that, obviously, I'm saying he wasn't going to fight Ngannou last April, but he should have fought a fighter of Ngannou's level, like a Gerald Washington, just gone in and just done a demolition job on him, rather than have a bit of an awkward 12-rounder with Jermaine Franklin, no issue with Helenius, and then kind of kill it off with a Otto Wallin. The activity, the way that it's been handled, I think it's been brilliant. And I think that it's got Anthony Joshua back to a place where he feels confident, where he feels comfy. And again, the best years could be ahead. I expect him to pick up another version of a world title. I expect him to become a 3-time heavyweight champion. Do I expect him to become undisputed? That's a tall order, especially if it's Alexander Usyk he faces, because I think that even the best version of Joshua just doesn't beat Usyk. I think that Usyk, that style, will always give Anthony Joshua fits. And Alexander Usyk, the only real hope is that he has regressed massively as a fighter. Maybe then you might have a bit of luck, but Alexander Usyk, consummate professional. So I wouldn't be picking Joshua over Usyk if they had a third fight, no. But what I want to talk about more so is what is next for Joshua, because at the end of the day, Fury is fighting Usyk. I know a lot of people say, look, we just want to see Joshua versus Fury. No. Fury versus Usyk for undisputed. Undisputed has to be at the forefront of people's minds. That's what I want to see. I've wanted to see it for as long as, right? Since the Klitschko era ended, all I've wanted is undisputed. We have it now. We should have it in May. That's what we should really be wanting, right? The Fury fight is always there. The Fury Joshua fight, regardless if both guys win or lose their respective fights, it's always going to be there. The fans will always have an eye on that fight. They will always want to watch that fight. So I think it'll always be there. There's no need doing it now. We want to see undisputed. I want to see undisputed. That is what I want to see. I want to see Fury versus Usyk. And that fight, by all accounts, is a 2-way fight. There's a rematch involved. So let's say Alexander Usyk beats Fury. And it's a competitive fight. If Usyk wins it, say like 8-4, competitive. Fury has his moments. And then they run it back. They run it back maybe October, November, December of this year. Then Joshua has to do something in the immediate time. And I think that now is the time to see where he really is at and to put him in with a top 10 heavyweight. Why not? Why not? And I look at the heavy, and BoxRec rankings are very interesting. They have Joshua listed as number 2 behind Alexander Usyk, no problem with that. But this shows how inactive Fury's been, is that he's actually second. So Joshua is the number 1 ranked heavyweight in the UK according to BoxRec. Fury is actually ranked number 4 in BoxRec's rankings behind number 3, which is Joseph Parker, which is strange enough. Joseph Parker, but Joseph Parker's been doing a lot more lately. Credit to him. I have to do a video on that as well. But let's look at BoxRec rankings are off, to say the least. But let's look at some of the guys here and we just give it 2 cents on it. Daniel Dubois is there at number 5. I'd love to see Joshua Dubois. I would absolutely love it. I'd love to see Joshua fight Dubois. I think it'd be a very, very good fight. Dubois, in his career, that Jarrell Miller performance, honestly, like, he ticked a lot of boxes there. Adja Kabayel, great win over Arslan Bekmambetov. There's an option. There's an opponent. Kabayel is a lot better than I think many of us give him credit for. Zhilei Zhang, he has his Joseph Parker rematch. Will it happen? Joseph Parker himself, I'm sure he'd love a rematch with Anthony Joshua. Joe Joyce out of Aleem Morakasiev, big X through there. F.A. Jagba, Jaron Anderson, Justice Hooney, again, we won't look at them. Filip Hrgovic, IBF mandatory challenger. Joshua could gain that mandatory status, could end up having to fight for could be for a vacant title. Filip Hrgovic, I would make Joshua favoured over, but he is the top 10 heavyweight in my opinion. And say what you want to say about Hrgovic, and I've had a lot to say, he's not looked good lately, but Zhilei Zhang hit him plenty in their fight. Never showed even a remote sign of being in trouble. So Filip Hrgovic in the chin department, it ain't bad. It ain't bad. Bacoli is there, Frank Sanchez is there. These are guys that, again, I'd like to see Joshua in there with Michael Hunter. Again, I wouldn't mind seeing Joshua in with someone like that. These are guys that I think that Joshua should be fighting next. Because if you think about it like that, who else really is there, for him to fight? I'd like to see him in there with a top 10 heavyweight. In terms of the mindset, in terms of his ability, it's looking good. But against the top 10 fighter, that's when we'll really see it. Hrgovic, Parker, Bacoli, Sanchez, Kabayel, those type of guys, they are what I would like to see Joshua in there with next. They're the fighters I'd like to see him in there with Dubois. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't, because there is no real gimmick fight that the Saudis could do. I think that we should see Joshua against someone like a Filip Hrgovic. I'd like to see it. I really would. And if Joshua goes in there and does a demolition job on him, we really have something on our hands here. But we need to see Joshua in there with a top 10 heavyweight before we go and start proclaiming that, he's the next best behind Alexander Usyk. He may very well be, lads. He may very well be. But I'd like to see him in there against a top 10 heavyweight. And I don't really class Oliver Lean as a top 10. Certainly not Francis Ngannou. Parker, Dubois, Kabayel, Sanchez, Bacoli. I would love to see Joshua Bacoli. God, that's a fight I'd really love to see. I think that fight will be very interesting, Bacoli versus Joshua. These are fights I'd like Joshua to do. And at the end of the day, in his career, certainly when he was champion, he showed no signs of not wanting to go and fight his contemporaries. He did as a champion. He fought, whoever was there. So, judging by Joshua's history, I don't doubt that we'll get a fight like that against the top 10. And I'd like to see it. I really, because again, a lot of people can say, Joshua, blah, 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 blah. Until we really see him with a top 10, we can say the signs look good. But until we see him in there against a real top 10 opponent, not Francis Ngannou, we can't just go and proclaim him the next coming. We can't just proclaim him, the best, apart from maybe Fury Usyk. And, maybe some people would even argue, no, he's better than Fury. It's just Alexander Usyk who is top of the tree. And just a little bit of it is annoying when, you see it and it's like, it's Fury, Joshua, blah, 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 blah. Alexander Usyk is there too. And in my opinion, he's number 1 of the heavyweight division. And it's going to be interesting to see him fight Fury. That's what I will say. We need to mention Alexander Usyk because he is a tremendous talent, a tremendous fighter. And that is what a heavyweight champion should be. Alexander Usyk, man, who just heavyweight champion of the world, he fights on the road. He'll fight wherever. He'll go into the opponent's backyard and fight. Heavyweight champion of the world, yes, the world isn't reserved for just, Britain, America, and Saudi Arabia. Alexander Usyk has been to Poland. He's been to America. He's been to Latvia. He's been all around. That's what I like to see. I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. And for now, I'll talk to you. Peace. You know, boxing today, it seems like there's news breaking every single day. There's fights being announced almost every day. Big fights at that. Boxing's in a good place. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I find it a little bit difficult at times just to stay on top of everything, between checking Twitter, checking boxing scene, going on BoxRec to see if there's anything announced. There's a lot to look for. There's a lot of platforms you need to go on. And if you look down on screen, you'll see today's sponsors, Boxing Showtimes. They've made an app that does it all for you. Look at that on screen. It shows you where you can get tickets. It gives you all the latest news. It gives you the tail of the tape. It gives you all the card details. It's going to give you details about Fury Usyk. It's going to give you details about Joshua Ngannou. It's also going to have a lot more little things thrown in there as well. The link is in the comment section. It's going to be pinned on this video and more besides soon enough. And not only that, in the comment section, there's also going to be a link, a G-Man promo, which means you can access a little bit more without ads. Now that, to quote Eddie Hearn, is a game changer. Now let's crack on with the video.